Imagine you're having a heart attack. The very least you'd expect is an ambulance rushing you to hospital for treatment. Now imagine any one of us having a mental health crisis. But it's not an ambulance that turns up, but a police car. And you're not taken to hospital, but you're taken to a police cell. Louisa Tanner, who lives near Tregaron in Ceredigion, doesn't need to imagine that, because it happened to her.
I have a condition known as borderline personality disorder, and that involves me frequently having suicidal crises. And on that night I was having a crisis, I was feeling suicidal. The police were involved because I'd gone missing from my accommodation in Cardigan. It was supported accommodation, and they tried to take me to a hospital, but there were no beds available. So the only option they had was to take me to a police cell.
What goes through your mind at that point?
Basically, when you're feeling suicidal and you're feeling all anxious and scared already, it makes that a lot worse.
These cells were designed for people who've been suspected of committing a crime. But in law, it is also a safe place to house someone who's having a mental health crisis. The other space is a hospital, but if there are no spaces there, then the authorities are left with no option. And that's the case for both adults and children and young people. It's a situation nobody is happy about. We asked each police force about details of the people they had kept in cells under the Mental Health Act. In the period we requested, we found out over 400 people were held. The oldest was 77, the youngest was just 12 years old.
The challenge is there for all of us in the public sector to work together in order to make sure that the appropriate arrangements are in place. And it isn't a question of somebody going into a police cell because there's no alternative. There must be alternatives.
And finding those alternatives are more urgent than ever because of this. A bill going through Westminster which would ban the use of police cells as a place of safety for under 18-year-olds having a mental health crisis. Charities welcome it, but say that could cause particular issues here in Wales.
There are hardly any crisis care beds for children, and we're extremely concerned about what happens to children when they reach mental health crisis.
There has been progress. Last December, the Welsh Government told public bodies that a police cell was not a safe place to put a young person with a mental health problem. And since then, rates have come down. But for Louisa, more work needs to be done to eliminate the use of police cells for the young and the old. Rob Osborne for In Focus, ITV News.